Hello and welcome to today's Competitive Advantage webinar, the process of implementing CPD in support of a specification strategy. My name is Chris Ashworth. I'm founder of Competitive Advantage, who specialise in market research in the construction sector, supporting it with training and consultancy. And our speciality is very much around about the specification sales process, of which CPD is a key element. I'm joined today by Julie, who will introduce herself now.
Well, good morning. My name is Julie Crosdale. I'm an associate of Competitive Advantage. My background is I've got over 20 years experience in construction marketing. I work with clients on the developing specification and Marcom strategy. I also develop and write CPDs for clients and run training on both strategy and Marcoms as well.
Fine, thank you very much, Julie. And we're also joined by our colleague Sarah, who's in a support role administering the webinar in the background. So this webinar is based around a report that Julie and I wrote recently, developing and delivering CPD, drawing on our joint experience of doing exactly that, working with clients and in our previous lives. To deliver effective CPDs, and we're going to run through some of the summary points of the report. The report is also available to download free of charge, and at the end of the webinar we will send you a link to enable you to download that. So why is CPD important? What it is it's the process of continuous improvement, and many professional organisations require their members to maintain some form of development and training to keep up to date with skills. That includes professionals in the construction sector, such as architects, engineers, often project managers, quantity surveyors, a whole raft of professionals. And it's an ideal opportunity for the product manufacturer to update and inform these people about their product range. So CPD is a way of maintaining that knowledge and keeping people up to date. Why is it important, Julie? Perhaps you'd like to comment on that.
Well, why it's important and how it fits into your strategy is it can be the vehicle to start and develop relationships with specifiers. They're a notoriously difficult group of people to engage with. They're very busy. We know with the COVID situation, they're not always where they used to be, so they're not necessarily in the practices anymore. And everybody wants to be their friend, so they're sort of bombarded with a lot of messages, but they don't answer cold phone calls. They don't necessarily respond to emails. And as you said, Chris, there is a requirement though from the specifier's point of view to do CPD as part of their professional body requirements. So this offers them an opportunity to find out about new products, keep abreast of technological developments and standards in the market by dealing with manufacturers. So from a manufacturer's point of view, it's a good door opener. It's also a good opportunity to introduce your company, discuss projects, introduce your product specification. But one of the key things is it's a really good way of establishing you as a company and your salespeople as the trusted advisor. So maybe that's something you'd like to talk about more, Chris.
Yes, and I'm a big advocate of the concept of a trusted advisor. And I think all of us in our day-to-day life, when we're looking for advice, we want to turn to people who we feel know what they're talking about and that we can trust. And the process of delivering CPD is a means of the person delivering that seminar to demonstrate their own expertise, their competence within the topic, and hopefully encourage the people they're talking to, their audience, to refer to them in the future for advice. It doesn't only apply to the individual presenting the seminar, but that attitude reflects onto the organisation that they're representing. So from the point of view of generally the product manufacturer, by delivering CPD, they're showing their organization has those in-house skills and expertise which are needed to give advice and give confidence to specifiers that this is the right organization to contact. So very, very important. And as I say, the CPD is a great way of demonstrating that. So in terms of the different forms of delivery and what's most important, I think it's quite interesting to look at a piece of work that was done by the NBS on behalf of REBA CPD, which looks at some of the different forms of delivery of CPD. And you can see here, they're showing that on-demand webinars, 81% of people like to use those. Live webinars, 77% say they use those. Workplace events, 56%. Then we come to printed CPD, videos, off-site events, site or factory visits, podcasts, road shows, a whole host of different things. Now, the pandemic did mean that attitudes changed a bit on these things, but you can see there's this raft of things. Some of them are delivered digitally, such as this webinar at the moment, and others it's done face-to-face. And of course, face-to-face is very important. I don't know if you want to expand on that a bit, Julie.
Yeah, I think so. I think, prior to COVID, if someone said CPD seminar, what did that mean? And 95% of the time that was a seminar in the architect practice or specifiers premises, done at lunchtime, like a lunch and learn, that sort of format. Now, what this piece of research shows, this is from the Competitive Advantages Construction Media Index that was done in 2022. It's showing the new normal, I guess, of what the preferred delivery methods are for CPD. And as you can see now, there's not one real clear winner on the format of delivery of seminars. So they're all much of a muchness. So the recorded online presentation around 28%, live presentation online 23%, face-to-face and face-to-face at offices, each, well, 26% and then 23%. So what it's showing to the manufacturer is they need to cover all bases really to deliver what the specifiers want. But from a face-to-face point of view, obviously the last two, the face-to-face at an organised event and the face-to-face at our offices, offer those extra opportunities for engagement in terms of product samples and discussing projects and things like that, as does the live online presentation if it's in real time. But there are more difficulties, as we all know, with online, with the engagement and trying to get the audience involved. So I think choosing for CPD seminar now, you need to look at both face-to-face, real time and recorded to fulfill all the requirements.
And I think both of them have their merits, don't they? Obviously, in face-to-face, you can pick up the body language more easily, you can sense issues, and of course you can engage with them more easily by handing out samples, maybe running a brief quiz, something of that nature. Whereas online doesn't have that quite that same high level of interactivity, does it?
No, but it is shown, I think it's what some specifiers want. The thing it does offer, it offers access 24/7 to CPD. So people who are wanting to make their CPD hours or find out things in a flexible working pattern, maybe they're working later nights, not office hours, it gives them the opportunity to access information on their terms as opposed to what the manufacturer wants to offer at their time preference.
And of course, online is much more cost and time effective. If we think of delivering a CPD seminar, there's quite a chunk of time. Often it'll take half a day of a person's time to get to the venue, to set it up, to do the talk, to run through it all, to pack away afterwards, etc. Whereas an online takes much less time, doesn't it?
I think so, but I do still think that online lends itself to different sorts of products. If it's a very technical product, you could argue that the audience participation are going to ask your technical representative who is there more information and more questions, but there isn't going to be that availability on an online. So it might end up being horses for courses depending on what products or messages you're trying to get out there, I think.
And also the practice you're targeting. So if it's a small organization with only a few people and maybe they're located in some distance from where your sales team are based, then online is a really good way of delivering. But if it's a large, important practice with potential for a lot of projects, then the value gain from actually having a salesperson in the practice, seeing people eye to eye, maybe talking about some of their projects after the seminar has been delivered, is tremendously valuable. So I think it's about looking at those specific opportunities and then targeting them, and recognizing it's only 23% of respondents to our construction media index said that they wanted to do face-to-face. It's about maybe finessing that a little bit to exploit those opportunities that do exist.
Yes, I think so. And it's also probably worth remembering that there's other forms of CPD. Most people do refer to CPD as the the seminar, but there are some other aspects as well. Well, there's recorded seminars that we've talked about, but also white papers can count as CPD, as can technical literature. And some of the certifier bodies are expanding what they will certify CPD. So things like factory tours can be CPD'd and certified. White papers can. Technical literature is a bit more tricky because obviously it's a bit more manufacturer specific, so it loses that objectivity. But overall, there are other elements of CPD, but we're particularly talking about seminars throughout here, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, and of course, when planning a seminar, there's quite a lot of preparation and work to do. Firstly, there's picking up an appropriate topic. We recommend looking at what your competitors are already offering and trying to avoid those topics, because if there's two organizations or more offering the same subject, you're reducing the chances of being selected. It's also about looking at inquiries that come in through your technical team to identify what issues are repeatedly being asked about, so that you can come up with CPDs that are relevant to your audience and which are more likely to be invited in. Then, of course, it's also about the buy-in from the whole team. It's not just about, say, the marketing department or the technical department sitting down and saying, let's write a seminar about such and such, doing it and then handing it to the sales team. It needs input from the sales team at a very early stage to get their buy-in to the concept, to get their input, more importantly, in terms of what their experience says is important to specifiers that they call on. That way, before even putting pen to paper or finger to keypad, there's a good start to think about what kinds of content are required. And also, there's the whole issue of the seminar objective, isn't there, Julie?
Yes, I think there is. The objective of the seminar should very much be looked at. What is it the architect specifier is needing? Often what we see, or I see, is it's very much the manufacturer looks at what can they offer, what product offering they have, what applications they go for, and try and format it that way. But it's really not that. It's really looking at what challenges the design team face, what opportunities their products or solutions their products and services offer, and trying to format it that way. So specifiers are going to be much more open to being offered solutions to their problems rather than just walking them through a product brochure, essentially.
Yes, and the sort of standard presentation of a product brochure, which unfortunately happens so often, can be quite tedious, I think, from what I've seen with these. And of course, all of that builds back, like with any other marketing tool, to having a clear objective of what you're wanting to achieve with the seminar. And that's a number of things. Mostly important, I think, is introducing your product specifications. To sell into the industry with a high performance product, it needs your product specification to be included in the detailing, and particularly the key features of your product. And the CPD provides an ideal opportunity to introduce those key features and explain why they're important. And perhaps if there are unique features to your particular product, to focus on those. Now, of course, a lot of that has to be handled very carefully in terms of the way it's presented, doesn't it, Julie?
Yes, I think so. It's very much looking at how the walkthrough is of. We're going to have to stop it. Sorry, could you just repeat the question there, Chris, on that one?
What I was saying was that it's very much about the way we present the information. You can't blatantly be presenting the product as yours.
No, it does have to have objectivity, and that's, I would say, even as if I was a manufacturer, whether or not I was going to go for certification, I would look at the requirements of what the certification bodies ask for as regards objectivity, because if you follow those rules, you can't go far wrong. So, don't mention product brands, don't put logos everywhere. It's not all we do this, we do that. It's very much supposed to be an educational piece that helps specifiers design the right solution that they need. So I would recommend, even if you're not going to have it certified, follow the objectivity rules that the certification bodies ask for. I would think would help.
And again, we sometimes encounter clients who are concerned about not being able to promote their brand and their products too blatantly. But at the end of the day, if your CPD achieves the effect of making the specifier aware of your organization, making them consider your salesperson a trusted advisor, and more to the point, gets committed to the idea of using your product specification, that's all you want to achieve. There's no more that needs to be done on that. And you were touching on whether or not you should go for certification or not. And obviously there are a number of pros and cons in terms of this. There are a number of professional bodies that offer CPD certification. I think the REBA is perhaps the best known of all of these. Of course, there's a cost associated with that. So when it comes to deciding whether or not you want to pay to be part of that, I think the things you need to consider are it gives credibility to your seminar. If you've got the certification, it gives the people who are viewing the seminars and deciding which ones to select confidence that it's not just going to be a sales pitch. And of course, these organizations also promote their CPD providers to their audience. So again, they're spreading the word for you.
Yeah,
however,
I think that. Oh, sorry, go on, Chris.
Carry on. No, carry on.
No, I think you're right. I think that is often overlooked. It's the fact that they also have a good database, of people. So when your CPD is approved by them, they put it within their own comms plan. It goes out on their social media. They promote the new CPDs that have been approved. So it acts as your sort of little more comms campaign as well. And some manufacturers have trouble getting that reach to architects and specifiers. And that's the whole reason they're doing CPD in the first place. They haven't got those relationships, and their open CPD is going to offer that. So if you haven't got a broad established relationships with specifiers at the moment, then it might be the thing that sways you to go down a third-party certification route, because they are going to send it out to their databases for you. So there's those sort of things, but also as well, it is that making it easier for the attendees. It has been pre-approved, it is going to be objective, they get double points. It just makes their life a bit easier if it is certified, but it isn't compulsory. I think a lot of manufacturers don't realize that you can issue your own CPD certificate. So if you run CPD and people attend, you can legitimately issue a certificate saying that person has attended, and that will count towards their CPD, because most professional bodies allow the person to gauge what is suitable CPD for them, what they need to know. They're the best place to know what they need to learn about. So there tends to always be an allowance for that. So manufacturers can issue their own CPD certificates as well. I think it's worth remembering that as well.
And that, of course, is very important from the point of view of the small organizations who maybe don't have the budget to fund CPD seminars. They can still do it, as you said earlier on, follow the guidelines of an organization like the REBA. But at the same time, you don't need to pay the money. You can just run it and develop it that way.
Yeah, see how it goes and evolve it. So that's the thing, isn't it?
Yes, and as you say, maybe run it for a period of time before you actually go and get it certified. And by that time, you've evolved it into a more powerful tool. What we've also found is some of the larger product manufacturers who have a well-established reputation feel that they don't need to incur the cost either of having it certified because of the reputation they already enjoy. But and again, we should point out there's more than just the REBA. There are other CPD certification services as well. And I would advise manufacturers to look at the options available to them, not just from the point of view of how much it costs, but also the audience they reach out to, because different certification bodies have a different reach in terms of what they can do for you. So if we move now on to the stages of writing the CPD, it starts, as I already said, with focusing on what the specifier wants to know. So that might be pulling in from the inquiries you've had. It's about understanding it. It's about picking up that and then focusing it on delivering it in that way, not as was previously said as a product brochure, but look at it in terms of the challenges that they're likely to face in terms of this kind of design, the causes of failure, for example, which are important aspects to consider. All those aspects in terms of using it. And Julie, I know you have a standard checklist you go through when you're helping clients to develop CPD, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's understanding what people what they need to get across. It's very much like I said before. It's very much understanding what the challenges are from the other side, not what you would necessarily want to offer them. And when you're writing technical content, it's understanding the learning outcomes of what you want people to take away from that CPD. So, you know, you need to select your subject, look for what you need them to take away, but don't be too overt, and have this hidden agenda, as we call it, which is, so it's a very subtle way of getting through what you want to put forward. And then it's moving to writing the actual CPD. So it's writing the whole technical content, including those learning outcomes, and that can take a lot of time to develop, because you have a situation where you have a lot of content as a manufacturer in all different formats, but you've got to like pull it all together. You know, I was always like put a storyboard together, so you know the flow of the story of what you're going to put in front of people and what objectives that's achieving for the company and what outcomes that's delivering. So you do that first for your entire seminar, then look at adding the images, the videos, creating any value justifications, all those sorts of things, and any support material. And then you have to write the script, because I think it's the thing, if you are going for third-party certification, it's compulsory to have a script, and it's compulsory to have a script that people follow, and it's so it has to be a very thorough script, not just bullet points. So it has to be, it's almost a word for word you're expecting the presenter to say. So at the end, write the script, and then you have a level of quality control with your own sales team, because you know when it's being delivered, if they're following the script, everybody is getting across the same messages. So in theory, everybody should be receiving, you know, the messages you want to deliver, regardless of who is delivering it. So that's the sort of format I would take. And the reason we always add the images and videos, etc., last is a file size situation. You know, when you're toing and froing between sales and technical with a CPD, it makes it much easier if it's only a small file size, and then right at the end put all your supporting imagery and videos and case studies, etc., in. I think that would be my top tip anyway.
And you also touched there on the hidden agenda, and the hidden agenda really is the sales message. Now, as a technical training document, it's not supposed to be selling, but clearly as a manufacturer, your purpose of delivering it is to sell your product. So it's about having those messages hidden away within the body of the CPD, and that I think is quite a skilled job, so that it isn't blatant, but it does get the message across. So that comes sort of in parallel with the other aspects of writing the seminar. And then, of course, there's the support material that goes with it. And while, as we've just said, you shouldn't be using the CPD to sell, what you do have to do is sell the concept of the CPD. So that's about having support information. If somebody sends in an inquiry or requests further information, a well put together document which sets out what the CPD is about, what the benefits of participating in the CPD are, so that people want to sign up to it. It's also worth remembering the CPD organizer is doing this in addition to their day job. So the easier you make it for them to share the information about the seminar with their colleagues, the better, the more effective it's going to be. So some kind of poster which they can either include in an email to their colleagues, or if it's an office, perhaps print and stick on the wall. All those things make it easy for the organizer to promote the seminar, and therefore increase the number of participants that you're likely to get in the event, whether it's face-to-face or online. And then there's also thinking about the support material that goes with it in terms of documents that you might give out. So For instance, there might be a more detailed technical piece about a certain aspect of the CPD, which you wouldn't have the time to go into at the presentation, and which also it might be too high level for some participants in the audience, but maybe something that other participants want to know more about. So support documents like that, very useful. And of course, we mustn't forget product information, which can be supplied, and samples, which particularly in a face-to-face situation, make the seminar much more memorable. Although, of course, Julie, what we do have is the problem when it's online, that you can't hand out those kinds of things, don't you?
No, yeah, that is one of the limitations of online. But you know, as we've said, there's other advantages in terms of cost and number of attendees and that sort of thing. But yeah, product samples and that opportunity for informal chats is the other one, I guess, in live ones at the end of a seminar. You know, people who are really interested, who want to know more information, will hang back and have a chat, have a coffee, you know, like you say, talk about product samples, take literature. There's all the informal stuff as well that goes on around CPD that needs to be considered, I think.
And of course, there are creative solutions to replace samples when you're in an online situation as well. So all of these things engage and maintain interest of the audience. But of course, what we've got to remember is that the CPD is one of the business's communication tools, and it's very much about making sure that it fits into the content plan, and then using that to develop it further, isn't it?
Well, yes, I think there's often, because there's so much effort involved in creating a CPD and getting it certified if that's the route you're going down, it's very much like, oh, job done now. You know, the fact that that's the start and not the end is often forgotten. Obviously, you have a whole host of challenges or tasks to do. One is, before we even get to the comms bit, is the rollout with the sales team. So you have to take there's a lot of work often goes on with marketing and sales to combine and support a rollout, because obviously as it's been developed, you need to understand if the sales team are familiar with this sort of delivery of stuff. So all that needs to be planned and training provided if that doesn't occur. But the other side we're talking about specifically, I guess, is the comms element, and it's taking, you know, you've got your full CPD, it's then looking back through it for the messages you were delivering, and also can it be broke down into packages. So if it can be broke down into packages of different topics, then there's opportunity to develop blogs for each of those topics, and each one of those blogs then can go out on your social media and shared on your website, all trying to drive the call to action to book the CPD. And then whether you've done an online version or whether you film someone delivering it live just for this particular purpose, you can have little video snippets of the key topics potentially, and put those out by your social media. Again, all driving to this booking a CPD, as well as developing more content. So the case studies to support it, the applications, all those sorts of things are comms activities but aren't the CPD themselves, if you see what I mean. So it's very much going to be the heart of your comms plan for quite a while, but it's the thing that keeps giving. You know, there's lots of opportunities in a 45-minute CPD. There's lots of individual messages you should be able to pull and leverage to get your comms, your communications plan going, and also to promote the CPD as well.
And of course, again, a number of our clients have found those little video clips you referred to can be quite useful in terms of either a technical advisor or a salesperson who's trying to explain a point to a specifier. They can give them a link to view that little video clip. And obviously pictures often make it much easier to understand the situation than just written or description. And again, those all act as tasters to encourage people to sign up to the CPD and to view it, which is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And finally,
sorry, Chris.
I was going to say, finally, we've got the process to put in place to monitor and review its success post launch, if we call it that.
Yes.
What would you suggest there?
I think the process I would look at, I think it's sort of threefold. One is, I think you need an ongoing feedback form. You know, there does need to be some way of measuring how it's going from day one, and that can be pretty brutal, especially if it's a start-off campaign. You know, we all know no one wants to be, because often feedback forms cover the content, they cover the presenter and how it's all put together. So I think you need to do that because it offers you the opportunity to tweak things very quickly. So before things go too far and not necessarily how you want it to go. So I definitely recommend an ongoing feedback form that's reviewed and actioned upon. Then I'd also, because a lot of it is heavily reliant on delivery, is reliant on the sales team, I think there needs to be some integration with the sales team about delivery. So whether that comes within the sales team meeting, some regular, I don't know, however monthly review, whatever reviews the sales team have, whether they can tag in some little discussion about CPD within that. So you're always reviewing the support it's getting from the sales team, how they're finding it. You know, they hopefully will see it evolve. You know, they should be more supportive as it goes on, because they should be starting to see that the relationships start to develop as CPD goes on. It should become easier to try and get in to talk to people and things like that. So some sort of review with the sales. But the more practical one is, at least quarterly or 6 monthly, you should sit down and go through the CPD just to make sure it's all up to date. Because if you're going to be the technical expert, you know, you don't be quoting out of date standards or covering products that you're no longer selling or promoting as your first choice. So it's reviewing it through that lens as well, of accuracy, up to date, new things coming, new trends coming, and update the actual physical CPD. And if you need to resubmit it for approval, so be it, because often with third-party certification bodies, you're allowed to change up to a certain percentage without having to incur a full review. So I wouldn't be shy about reviewing it as necessary, because you shouldn't have to go through a full review, if you see what I mean. I think some people try and put it off and do it all at once, but I think that if you just did the ongoing often, you shouldn't have to incur the full review and the associated fees, should we say.
Yeah, keep that. And of course, then there's the purpose of the CPD. And again, many organizations set a target that each salesperson has to deliver so many CPDs a month, or through a quarter, or something of that nature. And while that's a good idea, delivering the CPD seminar itself is not an end. It's the start of the journey. And so it's looking at those other measures that can be included. And I would suggest two. One is getting product specifications as a result of that. And the second is actually getting projects, winning and securing projects. And so it's using the CRM system to track back and see, oh yes, actually we started that with a CPD seminar maybe even 18 months ago, and it's now delivered in order. So then you can start to get some measure of value that the seminar is giving the business in terms of creating sales.
Yeah, and then hopefully that will help justify future CPDs, because there is a cost involved in developing these things and delivering them. So like you say, if you can measure the success so far, if you're having to A, continue the program, you should get support, or B, develop some more CPDs, you should start seeing that. And I like you say, you should start seeing sales team support increase. But I think one thing to consider, Chris, is probably have a realistic expectation as to the timescales you might need to start seeing return on investment, because it depends what sort of company you are and what sort of projects you target. But you know, as we know, timescales from specification to call off, you know, that can be up to 18 months to 2 years depending on the project type, can't it? So sometimes I think manufacturers are keen for a quick return on investment, but forgetting that the specification process could be a lot longer for their particular product range, I think. So
yes,
realism, I guess, a little bit.
Yes, it is. It's a medium to long-term game that is involved to make these things work. Okay, fine. So we're coming to the end of the webinar now. Happy to take any questions if people want to send them through. A couple we've already got, which I'll just highlight. One is, how much resource will a manufacturer need to plan, write and deliver a CPD? Which I think in a way you could argue is how long is a piece of string, but I don't know. Julie, maybe you've got some views on that, having worked with
yeah, I think it is quite a substantial amount of time, I think, because so we just look at the CPD creation of the slide deck as it was. So let's say that if I was writing a CPD, I'd say allow 35 to 40 hours for that element, because, you know, a standard CPD seminar is what we say 45 minutes. So you've got to create 40 to 45 slides for that. So the time to create those, do the storyboards, you know, find the technical content, put it in the format you want, check it, write it if it doesn't exist, you know, liaise with technical to sort all that out, and then write the script for 40 slides. That's a realistic sort of time scale for actual physical production. On top of that, you have that work that marketing, sales and technical will have to do to form the strategy of how it's going to work for them, i.e. what they want to get out of it, and also the format and the delivery, you know, the actual business case for it. So there's that element. And then, like I mentioned, often there is required input from marketing to support a rollout with sales. So that needs the integration and planning and resource to support delivery. So often it all depends how advanced you are. So if your sales team are used to running CPDs or they've done it in the past, you might not need a lot of marketing input, but often, especially when it's a new one, there will probably be some overlap in terms of having to train them, having to support them on day-to-day rollouts in the short term. If they're not used to online delivery, for example, you know, you might have to help them support for a few weeks and things. So the core delivery plus the other stuff to support other departments, I think. So it is a substantial amount of time, yeah, and ongoing.
And although we offer the service of helping manufacturers to develop these CPDs, again, there's still quite a lot of time pressure on the team who've got to check it technically to ensure it's correct, for example. So
yeah,
pressure in that respect, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, because sometimes it's something they haven't, you know, if they've not done it before, it's obviously having to locate and create things to support the arguments you want to put forward. So value justifications, those sort of things can take quite a long time to develop, you know. It's not necessarily something you find in a data sheet, but yeah, technical. So sales are at the beginning, sales, technical and marketing at the beginning, and then technical throughout the production of it, support, and then it sort of moves towards marketing and sales, if you see what I mean, for rollout and ongoing, with technical there to provide answers to the queries. So when you're relating to the specifiers and the specifiers want, you know, you go in and talk to them and then they want more answers to questions or support in designs, that's where technical come in again later on, I think. So it is a strategy for a whole, it's not a one-off Marcoms event, is it? It's a business strategy, is a CPD program. And that's what a lot of people forget, I think. They see it as, we'll have a CPD seminar and that's it. But it's not. The CPD seminar supports the specification strategy of the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another question, which I'll answer, is how do you get in front of your audience to deliver it? And that is a challenge, it has to be said. We've already touched on the fact that if you use one of the certification bodies, they have their own channels to promote the seminar for you and get exposure. But I would say it's very much about a targeted approach as well. First of all, doing analysis to identify those practices that you want to be in front of, where you see there are good opportunities, whether it be face-to-face or on a video link, and then using various other marketing tools to engage with them. Maybe it's simple things like email shots, but more importantly, as Julie mentioned earlier on, it's using those video clips, blog articles, other things through your other communications channels to create awareness and then get them inviting you in. Unfortunately, you can't really achieve a lot by just cold calling, but although it's worth also remembering that practices tend to work on a cycle, say 6 months, where they plan what seminars they're going to have for the next 6 months. So you need to sort of catch them at the right point in time to get your seminar considered, because otherwise it just won't stand a chance. Right, so that brings us to the end of the webinar. I hope you found it useful. As I say, we will send through a link so you can view the video in your own convenience. And don't forget, you can download our publication as well to see in more detail the topics we've been covering today. So thank you very much. Thank you to Julie for joining me, and I'll end the webinar there. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.